وإن أفطرت حامل. طيب، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. فهذا هو الدرس العاشر من هذه الدروس التي نقرأ فيها الشرح الممتع للشيخ ابن عثيمين رحمه الله، ونعلق بما يفتح الله لنا. So this is the 10th class in which we are reading الشرح الممتع of الشيخ ابن عثيمين رحمه الله, and we're commenting with whatever Allah opens up for us. وصلنا إلى قول المؤلف رحمه الله: وإن أفطرت حامل. المؤلف أي الحجاوي. وصلنا إلى قول الحجاوي الماتن، يقول: وإن أفطرت حامل أو مرضع خوفا على أنفسهما قضتاه فقط، وعلى ولديهما قضتاه وأطعمتا لكل يوم مسكينا. So Al-Hajjawi rahimahullah says there at the top, and if a pregnant woman or breastfeeding woman breaks her fast out of fear for herself, she only makes it up. And if out of fear for her child, she makes it up and feeds a poor person for each day. Clear? Or repeat? And if a pregnant woman or breastfeeding woman breaks her fast out of fear for herself, she only makes it up. And if out of fear for her child, she makes it up and feeds a poor person for each day. For each day she broke her fast. طيب. يقول الشيخ رحمه الله: أفادنا المؤلف رحمه الله أنه يجوز للحامل والمرضع أن تفطرا وإن لم تكونا مريضتين، وهذا يشمل أول الحمل وآخر الحمل، وأول الإرضاع وآخر الإرضاع، وذلك لأن الحامل يشق عليها الصوم من أجل الحمل لا سيما في الأشهر الأخيرة، ولأن صيامها ربما يؤثر على نمو الحمل إذا لم يكن في جسمها غذاء، فربما يضمر الحمل ويضعف. وكذلك في المرضع إذا صامت يقل لبنها فيتضرر بذلك الطفل، ولهذا كان من رحمة الله عز وجل أن رخص لهما في الفطر. The Shaykh rahimahullah says, the author has informed us, the author who? Hajjawi. The author has informed us, rahimahullah, that it is permissible for a pregnant woman and a breastfeeding woman to break their fast, even if they are not sick. And this includes the beginning of the pregnancy and the end of the pregnancy, and the beginning of the breastfeeding and the end of breastfeeding. And that is because fasting is difficult for a pregnant woman due to her pregnancy. Fasting is difficult for a pregnant woman due to her pregnancy, especially in the later months. And because that fasting may affect the development of the child, because there is no nutrition in her body, and so it may become weak and fail to develop. And also, the breastfeeding woman, if she fasts, her breast milk decreases, and so the child is harmed by that. And so, from the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal is that He allowed the both of them to break their fast. The both of them, the pregnant and breastfeeding woman. يقول وإفطارهما قد يكون مراعاة لحالهما وقد يكون مراعاة لحال الولد الحمل أو الطفل وقد يكون مراعاة لحالهما مع الولد. Now, them breaking their fast may be because they're taking into consideration their own situation, meaning they're breaking their fast for their own selves. And it could be because they're taking into consideration the state, the health of the child, the fetus in the case of the pregnant woman, and the child in the case of the breastfeeding woman. Or it may be because they're taking into consideration both, meaning their state and the state of the child as well. So how many situations do we have? 3. We have 3 حالات. يقول الشيخ وعلى كل حال فيجب عليهما القضاء لأن الله تعالى فرض الصيام على كل مسلم وقال في المريض والمسافر فعدة من أيام أخر مع أنهما أي المريض والمسافر مفطران بعذر مع أنهما مفطران بعذر فإذا لم يسقط القضاء عمن أفطر لعذر من مرض أو سفر فعدم سقوطه عمن أفطرت لمجرد الراحة من باب أولى. He says, and in all cases, it's an obligation on her to make it up. Which cases? In all 3 cases, it's an obligation on her to make it up. He says because Allah made it an obligation to fast on every Muslim. And He said, Allah Azza wa Jal, He said regarding the sick person and traveler, فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. And whoever among you is sick or traveling, then an equal number from other days. Meaning, you make up those days from other days. Even though they have broken their fast due to an excuse. They, meaning the sick and the traveler. So the sick and traveler breaks their fast due to an excuse, and they're not excused from making it up. They still have to make it up, even though they broke their fast due to an excuse, and it is sickness or traveling. And so he says then the one who breaks her fast for ease, then she should make it up even more so. Okay? يقول وأما الإطعام فله 3 حالات أي على المذهب مذهب الحنابلة. الحال الأولى أن تفطرا خوفا على أنفسهما فتقضيان فقط، يعني أنه لا زيادة على ذلك. فهذه الحال الأولى. He says, as for feeding, so he established that it's an obligation to what? Make up the days in every situation. Now for feeding a poor person, when do they feed? يقول, as for feeding, then it has 3 cases. meaning according to the madhab. It has three cases, meaning according to the madhab. Which madhab? Madhab al-Hanabila. The first case, he says, is that if they break their fast out of fear for their own selves, then they make it up only. Then they only make it up. And there's nothing more than that. So in that case, according to the madhab, what? They don't have to feed. They don't have to feed. They make it up and they don't have to feed. يقول الحال الثانية أن تفطر خوفا على ولديهما فقط فتقضيان وتطعمان لكل يوم مسكينا. أما القضاء فواضح لأنهما أفطرتا، وأما الإطعام فلأنهما أفطرتا لمصلحة غيرهما فلزمهما الإطعام. وقال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما في قوله: وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين، قال: كانت رخصة للشيخ الكبير والمرأة الكبيرة وهما يطيقان الصيام يفطران ويطعمان عن كل يوم مسكينا، والمرضع والحبلى إذا خافتا، قال أبو داود يعني على أولادهما، أفطرتا وأطعمتا. أفطرتا وأطعمتا، رواه أبو داود. وروي عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما. The second situation is that if they break their fast out of fear for their children only, so they're not breaking their fast for themselves but for the benefit of the child, and so they make it up and what? Feed a poor person for each day. And feed a poor person for each day. He says, as for making it up, then it is clear, because they broke their fast, so they have to make it up. What about feeding the poor person? That is because they broke their fast. Why do they say she has to feed a poor person as well? Because she broke her fast for the benefit of someone else. And in this case it is the child, whether it's a pregnant woman or breastfeeding woman. They said so she has to feed. She has to feed. And Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma said regarding the statement of Allah, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, he said it was a concession for the old man and the old woman. If they are able to fast, they break their fast and they feed a poor person for each day. And the breastfeeding woman and pregnant woman, if they fear, meaning for the child, they break their fast and feed. So Ibn Abbas says, collected by Abu Dawood, and he says, and it was narrated from Ibn Umar as well. ما هو الذي روي عن ابن عمر? What is it that was narrated from Ibn Umar as well? The Shaykh is referring to, meaning that if the pregnant or breastfeeding woman breaks her fast, she must feed. That's what he's referring to. أنها تطعم. طيب، ننبه هنا على أن رواية أبي داود هذه فيها اختصار مخل كما قال الشيخ الألباني رحمه الله في الإرواء. وتمام الرواية كما أخرجها ابن الجارود في المنتقى والبيهقي أن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه قال: رخص للشيخ الكبير والعجوز الكبيرة في ذلك وهما يطيقان الصوم أن يفطرا إن شاء ويطعما كل يوم مسكينا ولا قضاء عليهما. ثم نسخ ذلك في هذه الآية: فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه. وثبت للشيخ الكبير والعجوز الكبيرة إذا كانا لا يطيقان الصوم، والحبلى والمرضع إذا خافتا أفطرتا وأطعمتا لكل يوم مسكينا. We want to point out here this narration from Ibn Abbas, which was collected by Abu Dawood, that this has been condensed. It's been summarized. It's been summarized in an incomplete way, as Al-Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah pointed out in Al-Irwa. Because let's read what it says. He says, Ibn Abbas, as it was collected by Abu Dawood, he says it was a concession for the old man and the old woman, if they are able to fast, that they break their fast and feed for every day a poor person. And the breastfeeding and pregnant women, if they are afraid, then they break their fast and feed. But it says if they're able to fast. Okay? The complete narration of this was collected by Ibn Jarud in his Muntaqa and by Al-Bayhaqi as well and others, that Ibn Abbas said, so this is the complete narration, it was a concession. It was allowed for the old man and the old woman to break their fast if they are able to fast. They are able to fast, that they break their fast if they want, and they feed for every day a poor person, and there is no qada upon them, meaning they don't have to make it up. Notice, it says if they're able to fast, meaning they're able to fast, then you can fast if you want, or you can feed a poor person and you don't have to make it up. So this is what Ibn Abbas is saying. He says, and this is omitted from this narration, the one in the text. He says, but then this was abrogated by this ayah, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. And whoever witnesses the month among you shall fast it. And so it was established that the old man and old woman, if they are unable to fast, and the pregnant and breastfeeding woman, if they fear, if they're afraid, they both break their fast, meaning the breastfeeding pregnant woman, that they both break their fast and feed for every day a poor person. Understood? So here, this part was omitted, and it affects the meaning. It affects the meaning. And so the conclusion is that Ibn Abbas considered the pregnant and breastfeeding woman like the old man and old woman who are unable to fast. What do they have to do? Remember, they have to feed for every day a poor person. Do they have to make it up? They don't have to make it up. So keep that in mind. يقول الشيخ رحمه الله: الحال الثالثة إذا أفطرتا لمصلحتهما ومصلحة الجنين أو الطفل، فالمؤلف سكت عن هذه الحال، والمذهب أنه يغلب جانب مصلحة الأم، وعلى هذا فتقضيان فقط، أي في هذه الحال الثالثة، وعلى هذا فتقضيان فقط، فيكون الإطعام في حال واحدة، وهي إذا كان الإفطار لمصلحة الغير، الجنين أو الطفل. وهذا أحد الأقوال في المسألة. The third situation, what was the first situation? First situation. They break their fast for their own self. Second situation, only for their child. يقول الحالة الثالثة, the third situation, if they break their fast for their benefit, the child, and their own benefit as well. Okay? So they're taking into consideration both themselves and their child. The fetus in the case of the pregnant woman, and the child in the case of the breastfeeding woman. And so you notice the author, meaning Al-Hajjawi, didn't mention this situation. The first part we read in the beginning, he didn't mention that situation. And so the madhab in this case is that we give precedence to the situation of the mother. And so what does she do? She just makes it up. He says, and so in this case, she only makes it up. And so, then feeding is only in one case. And that is which case? If she's breaking her fast for her child. وَهَذَا أَحَدُ الْأَقْوَالِ فِي الْمَسْأَلَةِ. And this is one of the opinions in this issue. And that is what issue? Pregnant and breastfeeding women. What do they do if they break their fast? يقول والقول الثاني أنه لا يلزمهما القضاء وإنما يلزمهما الإطعام فقط سواء أفطرتا لمصلحتهما أو مصلحة الولد أو للمصلحتين جميعا. واستدلوا بما يأتي. الأول حديث إن الله وضع الصيام عن الحبلى والمرضع. الثاني أثر ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما والمرضع والحبلى إذا خافتا على أولادهما أفطرتا وأطعمتا، وهو الأثر الذي سبق. قال ولم يذكر القضاء، أي ابن عباس لم يذكر القضاء. The second opinion regarding this issue. What issue? What issue? أحسنت, breaking their fast. طيب. The second opinion is that they don't have to make it up. And they only have to feed. And they only have to feed. Regardless if they broke their fast for their own selves or for the benefit of the child or for the benefit of both. And they use the following as evidence. The hadith, Allah has waived siyam, fasting, for the pregnant and breastfeeding woman. Allah has waived siyam for pregnant and breastfeeding woman. Second, what they used as evidence is the athar of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, and in it, and the breastfeeding woman and the pregnant woman, if they are afraid for their child, they break their fast and feed. And he did not mention making it up. Who didn't mention making it up? Meaning Ibn Abbas didn't mention. And this is the athar that we just talked about. This is the athar that we just talked about. أما حديث إن الله وضع الصيام عن الحبلى والمرضع فهو حديث it's not there فهو حديث أنس بن مالك الكعبي رضي الله عنه وليس هو أنس بن مالك خادم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وفي الحديث أنه أتى أي أنس بن مالك الكعبي أنه أتى رضي الله عنه أنه أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يتغدى فقال أي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أدن فكل فقلت إني صائم قال صلى الله عليه وسلم أدن أحدثك عن الصوم أو الصيام إن الله وضع عن المسافر الصوم وشطر الصلاة وعن الحامل أو المرضع الصوم أو الصيام. والحديث حسنه الترمذي رحمه الله وقال الشيخ الألباني حسن صحيح. As for this hadith of the first hadith, which is what? What did we say? Allah has waived fasting for the pregnant and breastfeeding woman. Are you guys trying to look at the relationship between the hadith? How is that an evidence for what their position? You guys thinking about this? What's their position? This second opinion that we talked about. They don't have to make it up, just feed. Okay? So think about that as we're reading. No, it's not. It's not the position with it. The Hanabila is the first opinion. طيب. And it's going to become clear as we read. نعم, this hadith is the hadith of Anas ibn Malik al-Ka'bi. And this isn't Anas ibn Malik the one who served the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is Anas ibn Malik al-Ka'bi radiyallahu anhu, and he only narrated this hadith. And in it, he came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam while he was eating. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him, come and eat. And so he said, I'm fasting. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, come and I will tell you about fasting. Come, let me tell you about fasting. Indeed, Allah has waived for the traveler fasting and half of the prayer. And fasting for the pregnant and breastfeeding woman. Okay, so what the hadith indicates that Allah has waived fasting for those three categories. Who? Traveler, pregnant, breastfeeding. Keep that in mind. This hadith was deemed Hasan by At-Tirmidhi. And Al-Albani rahimahullah said, Hasanun Sahih. قال الإمام الترمذي رحمه الله بعد أن ذكر الحديث قال والعمل على هذا عند بعض أهل العلم أي القضاء دون الإطعام. يقول أي الترمذي وقال بعض أهل العلم الحامل والمرضع تفطران وتقضيان وتطعمان وبه يقول سفيان ومالك والشافعي وأحمد. وقال بعضهم تفطران وتطعمان ولا قضاء عليهما وإن شاءتا قضتا ولا إطعام عليهما وبه يقول إسحاق. Al-Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, after narrating this hadith الذي أخرجه أصحاب السنن وأحمد, which was collected by the people of the Sunan and Ahmad. Who are the people of the Sunan? Abi Dawood, At-Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and An-Nasai. No, this doesn't include Bukhari and Muslim. So 6 books excluding Bukhari and Muslim when you say Ashab As-Sunnah, and so that's 4, and Ahmad as well. The point, Al-Tirmidhi said after he narrated this hadith, and some of the people of knowledge act by this. He means that a pregnant and breastfeeding woman make up their fast and do not feed. Just like a traveler. Just like a traveler. Because a traveler was mentioned in the hadith. He said, and some of the people of knowledge said, a pregnant or breastfeeding woman break their fast and make it up and feed. And this is the position of Sufyan and Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmad. He said, and some of them say she feeds, she breaks her fast and feeds, and she does not have to make it up. She does not make it up. And if she wants, she can make it up and she doesn't have to feed. As if she has the option. He says, and this is the position of Ishaq. And this is the position, that final one we mentioned, is the position of Ishaq. يقول الشيخ رحمه الله: القول الثالث التخيير بين القضاء والإطعام. التخيير بين القضاء والإطعام. The Shaykh says, the third position is that she has the option between making it up or feeding. Make it up or feed. قال القول الرابع يلزمهما القضاء فقط دون الإطعام. وهذا القول أرجح الأقوال عندي. وهذا القول أرجح الأقوال عندي. وهذه العبارة من الشيخ رحمه الله مشعرة بقوة الخلاف في هذه المسألة. أرجح الأقوال عندي، كأنه يقول نعم وقد يترجح عند غيري غير هذا القول. والأمر كذلك، أي أن الخلاف بين العلماء في هذه المسألة قوي. الخلاف في المسألة قوي، حتى قال العلامة ابن العربي المالكي رحمه الله: وأما الحامل والمرضع فالاختلاف فيهما كثير ومتباين. في من عارضة الأحوذي من شرحه على سنن الترمذي قال: وأما الحامل والمرضع فالاختلاف فيهما كثير ومتباين. وفيه المسألة معضلة ما وجدت ولا قدرت على تحقيقها. المسألة معضلة ما وجدت ولا قدرت على تحقيقها. ولا أدري هل هذا من كلام ابن العربي أم مما أدرج في كلامه، لأن تحقيق عارضة الأحوذي سيء، فيه أخطاء كثيرة. طيب, how many positions did we mention so far? 3, and we'll translate what we said about the fourth. The fourth position, he says, is that they only make it up without feeding. Meaning in all situations. Regardless, they break their fast for themselves, for the child, both. All they do is just make it up. And they are not required to feed. The Shaykh says, and this position is the strongest to me. And this position is the strongest to me. The Shaykh here, this expression by the Shaykh, he says, this is the strongest position to me. It gives you the feeling that the differing in this issue is strong. Right? That there is strong differing in this issue. It's as if he's saying, this is the strongest position to me, but another person of knowledge may have a different position. Something may be stronger to them. Okay? It gives you the feeling that what? That the differing in the issue is, that the differing in the issue is strong, and that is the case. The differing between the people of knowledge in this issue is strong. To the point that Ibn al-Arabi al-Maliki, Al-Allama Ibn al-Arabi al-Maliki, who died in the 6th century, he said, as for the pregnant and breastfeeding woman, the differing in that is abundant and varying. The differing is abundant and varying, like conflicting. This he mentioned it in his explanation of Sunan At-Tirmidhi, which is called Aridat Al-Ahwadi. It also, in that same line in the book, it says, and the issue is complex, and I wasn't able to reach a conclusion in it. Okay? The issue is complex, and I wasn't able to reach a conclusion in it. However, this statement, the issue is complex and I wasn't able to reach a conclusion in it, I don't know, I doubt that these are the words of Ibn al-Arabi. Because the verification of that book, the job that was done in it is horrible. And they put in words into the text that aren't Ibn al-Arabi's words, and it seems like it's from his words. So that statement right there is questionable if it's from him. نعم قلنا وهذا القول الذي ذهب إليه الشيخ رحمه الله هو مذهب الحنفية، هو مذهب الحنفية، مذهب الأحناف. ووجدت في بعض كتب الحنفية أنهم ينسبون هذا القول إلى علي رضي الله عنه. يقول الإمام ابن المنذر رحمه الله، يقول الإمام ابن المنذر وهو يذكر الأقوال في هذه المسألة، وقال الحسن البصري وعطاء بن أبي رباح والضحاك والنخعي والزهري وربيعة والأوزاعي وأصحاب الرأي يفطران ويقضيان ولا طعام عليهما بمنزلة المريض، يفطر ويقضي. وبه قال أبو عبيد وأبو ثور، وحكى ذلك أبو عبيد عن الثوري. قال ابن المنذر بقول الحسن وعطاء نقول، أي أنها تقضي ولا تطعم. بقول الحسن وعطاء نقول. This position which the Shaykh took, the position that the Shaykh took, is the madhab of Hanafi, madhab of the Ahnaf. And I found in some of the books of Al-Hanafiyyah that they attribute this opinion to Ali radiyallahu anhu. Understood? That they attribute this opinion to Ali. What is it? What is the position? Just make it up. There's no feeding. There's no feeding. In any case, Al-Imam Ibn al-Mundhir rahimahullah said, as he was mentioning the opinions of the people of knowledge in this issue, he said, when he came to this opinion, he said, and Al-Hasan Al-Basri, and Ata ibn Abi Rabah, and Al-Dhahhak, and Al-Nakha'i, and Al-Zuhri, and Rabi'a, and Al-Awza'i, and the people, and Ashab Al-Ra'i. Who's Ashab Al-Ra'i? Ashab Al-Ra'i, those of the people of Ra'i. Who's that? It's Abu Hanifa and his companions. Ashab Al-Ra'i, when mentioned in the books of fiqh, is Abu Hanifa and his companions. Al-Awza'i and Ashab Al-Ra'i, that she breaks her fast, makes it up, and there is no feeding upon her. Just like a sick person breaks their fast and makes it up. And it is the opinion of Abu Ubaid and Abu Thawr, and Abu Ubaid mentioned that it is the position of Al-Thawri. Al-Imam Ibn Al-Mundhir said after mentioning this, and we take the position of Al-Hasan and Ata. That is what? It's the position we just mentioned. Because we said, قال الحسن البصري وعطاء ibn Abi Rabah. He said, and we take the position of who? Al-Hasan and Ata. Who's saying that? Ibn Al-Mundhir. So that's his position. And Imam Ibn Al-Mundhir's position is that what? She what? Makes it up. Just makes it up. Just like a sick person, when they break their fast, they make it up. Same thing. طيب. نعم. قال الشيخ وهذا القول أرجح الأقوال عندي لأن غاية ما يكون أنهما كالمريض والمسافر فيلزمهما القضاء فقط أي الحامل والمرضع فيلزمهما القضاء فقط. وأما سكوت ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما عن القضاء فلأنه معلوم. ولكن الذين يوجبون الإطعام فقط أي من غير قضاء يجيبون عن هذا بأن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه ثبت عنه التصريح بعدم القضاء، أي ثبت عن ابن عباس وابن عمر كذلك رضي الله عنهم أن الحامل والمرضع تطعمان ولا تقضيان. So the Shaykh says, and this position is the strongest position to me. We read that? He says, because ultimately, the two of them are like a sick person or traveler, and so all they have to do is make up the day. So all they have to do, meaning pregnant and breastfeeding, all they have to do is make up the day. He said, as for Ibn Abbas, not mentioning al-qada, he says because it's known. Meaning it's known that she has to make it up. That's what the Shaykh said. He said, as for Ibn Abbas, not mentioning what? Ibn Abbas, he said, as for Ibn Abbas not mentioning al-qada, Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, is saying, he said Ibn Abbas was quiet about that because it's known. Meaning it's known that if you break your fast, you have to make it up. But the ones who have this opinion, which is the opinion that she only feeds and she doesn't make it up, they could respond to this argument that Ibn Abbas didn't mention it. They'll say that Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, it's established that he said the pregnant and breastfeeding women do not make it up. Understood? It's established that from Ibn Abbas through authentic chains and Ibn Umar as well, that the pregnant and breastfeeding women break their fast and feed and do not make it up. So all she has to do is feed. There's no making up. Okay? So the point is that, is it the case that Ibn Abbas just didn't mention it? Is that the case, that he just didn't mention al-qada, making it up? No, that's not the case. The case is, it's established that he explicitly said, a pregnant and breastfeeding woman don't make up whatever they do. They just have to feed. And Ibn Umar as well. Okay? So this is established from who? Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar. يقول الشيخ رحمه الله: وأما حديث إن الله تعالى وضع الصيام عن الحبلى والمرضع، أي لأن الذين قالوا إنها تطعم فقط استدلوا بهذا الحديث، قالوا يسقط عنها القضاء واستدلوا بهذا الحديث. قال: وأما حديث إن الله تعالى وضع الصيام عن الحبلى والمرضع فالمراد بذلك وجوب أدائه وعليهما القضاء. نعم، لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جمع بين الحامل والمرضع والمسافر في الحكم. ما هو الحكم؟ أن الله وضع عنهم الصيام، أن الله وضع عنهم الصيام، ومعلوم أن المسافر يجب عليه القضاء، فلماذا لم تقولوا إن المسافر لا يجب عليه القضاء كما أن الحامل والمرضع لا يجب عليهما القضاء؟ ففي الحقيقة ليس في الحديث دليل على عدم وجوب القضاء، على عدم وجوب القضاء على الحامل والمرضع. طيب. He says, now, do you guys remember what they used as evidence? When we said, and they used as evidence the hadith, Allah has waived fasting for the breastfeeding and pregnant woman. Remember the hadith of Anas ibn Malik al-Ka'bi. The hadith of Anas ibn Malik al-Ka'bi. They said she doesn't have to make it up. Why? The hadith of Anas ibn Malik al-Ka'bi. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allah waived fasting for them, so they don't have to make it up. What do you guys think about that? Huh? During which time? You know, during their excuse, meaning. Their excuse, very good. Anyone? I mean, if she breaks her fast while she's breastfeeding, so it's kind of what the brother said. Anyone else want to add? They're saying Allah waived, they don't have to make it up. Why? This hadith. And the Messenger said Allah waived fasting for the pregnant and breastfeeding woman, right? So the Shaykh says, what's intended by that is the obligation of doing it. Meaning she's excused to break her fast. Meaning the correct understanding of the hadith is that she's excused to break her fast. And that she has to make it up. Not that making it up is completely dismissed. How can we get that from this hadith? Now, because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned this to Anas ibn, who? Anas ibn Malik. Now, when he mentioned that, he combined between three categories of people. The traveler, pregnant, and breastfeeding. And that is that Allah waived fasting for them. And it's known that the traveler has to make up the fast. So if you're saying that this hadith shows that the pregnant and breastfeeding woman don't have to make up the fast, then you have to say the traveler doesn't have to make up the fast as well. Clear? Clear? Now, so in reality, there's no argument for them in the hadith. In fact, it supports the position of those who say all she has to do is make it up. Because that's what a musafir does. The traveler, they break their fast and then they make it up. So that's this evidence is stronger for them. It's a stronger argument for those who say she just makes it up. Understood? طيب. يقول الشيخ وسبب الخلاف. Bear with me. We're almost done with that difficult part. وسبب الخلاف أنه ليس هناك نص قاطع صحيح وصريح في وجوب أحد هذه الأمور. نعم، فمن نظر إلى ظاهر القرآن والسنة، نصوص القرآن والسنة، ونظر إلى شبه الحامل والمرضع بالمريض، قال إنها يجب عليها القضاء فقط كالمريض، يجب عليها القضاء فقط كالمريض، كما قال الإمام الأوزاعي رحمه الله: الحمل والإرضاع عندنا مرض من الأمراض تقضيان ولا إطعام عليهما. الحمل والإرضاع عندنا مرض من الأمراض تقضيان ولا إطعام عليهما. فالحامل والمرضع أشبه بالمريض منهما بالشيخ الهرم الذي يعجز عن القضاء، لأنهما يقدران على القضاء. الحامل والمرضع إذا زال العذر قدرت على القضاء، يقدران على القضاء عند زوال العذر، بخلاف الشيخ الهرم فإن عذره لا يزول. ومن نظر من أهل العلم إلى الآثار الثابتة، وذكرنا أن هذا ثبت عن ابن عباس وابن عمر، من نظر إلى هذه الآثار قال بالإطعام فقط، وهاب أن يقول بخلافها. ثم منهم من جمع بين الأمرين فأوجب القضاء والفدية، فأوجب القضاء والفدية كما هو مذهب الحنابلة والشافعية. ومن تأمل هذا وتردد شبههما بين المريض والذي لا يطيق الصوم وجدهما أشبه بالمريض، وجدهما أشبه بالمريض. فالأرجح كما سبق، الأظهر إن شاء الله، أن الحامل والمرضع تقضيان فقط، أن الحامل والمرضع تقضيان فقط، والله أعلم. So the Shaykh says, and the reason for this differing is that there isn't a explicit, authentic, clear text in this issue which shows that which one is an obligation. What does she have to do? Does she have to make it up only, or does she feed only, or does she do both, make it up and feed? So the one who looks at the apparent meanings of the Quran and Sunnah and looks at how the pregnant and breastfeeding woman resembles the sick person would say she is only obligated to what? She's only obligated to make it up. Just like the sick person. She's very similar to the sick person. Just like Al-Imam Al-Awza'i, rahimahullah, said, he said, pregnancy and breastfeeding to us is a sickness of the sicknesses. She makes it up and there is no feeding upon them. Al-Imam Al-Awza'i said, pregnancy and breastfeeding is a sickness of the sicknesses to us. He's comparing it to the sickness. He said she makes it up and she's not obligated to feed. And so, the pregnant and breastfeeding woman is more similar to the sick person than they are to the old man who can't fast at all, who's not able to make it up. Because the old man and old woman, they can't make it up. They can't make it up. Because the pregnant and breastfeeding woman, they're able to make it up when their excuse is gone. As for the old man and old woman, then they can't make it up and their excuse doesn't go away. Okay? And the people of knowledge so those were the ones who looked at apparent meanings of the Quran and Sunnah, and this is the closest to Al-Qiyas, this position. And then the group of people of knowledge who looked at those athar, which are established from who? Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar. They said, she only feeds. She only feeds. And they were hesitant to go against the fatwa of the Sahaba. The fatwa of these two Sahaba. They say, it's authentic there. How am I going to go against it? And so they were hesitant to oppose Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar. And then there was a group who combined between both qada and it'am, feeding and making it up. And that is the madhab, as we mentioned, is the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila. And the one who contemplates over which one the pregnant woman and breastfeeding woman more closely resembles. Does she more closely resemble the sick person or the person who is not able to fast or make it up? You find the both of them, pregnant and breastfeeding, to be more similar to the sick one. And so the stronger opinion and more apparent opinion in this case is that the pregnant and breastfeeding woman make up the days and they don't feed. They make up the day and they don't feed. Wallahu a'lam. How much time passed? How much time passed from the class started? Do you guys want to finish? We'll stop. Maybe it's a little bit heavy, all that information. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.